Have you ever heard of a revolution with almost no bloodshed? A revolution that completely changed the course of a nation, laying the groundwork for modern democracy, all while being, well, rather polite? Today, we re-diving into one of the most pivotal yet often misunderstood events in history, the Glorious Revolution of 1688. This isn't just a dusty old story. It's the moment that transformed England, and its ideas would echo across the ocean, influencing the very foundation of the United States. So let's set the stage. Picture England in the late 17th century. The country was still nursing the wounds of its brutal civil war just a few decades earlier, a conflict that saw King Charles I executed. His son, Charles II, was restored to the throne, but the tension between the crown and parliament, and between Protestants and Catholics, was still simmering just beneath the surface. Charles II was a savvy political operator, but he had a secret. He was sympathetic to Catholicism. When he died without a legitimate heir in 1685, the crown passed to his younger brother, James. Now, this is where the real drama begins. James wasn't just sympathetic to Catholicism. He was an open and devout Catholic. In a predominantly Protestant country, this was a massive red flag. The English people feared a return to Catholic rule, remembering the bloody reign of Bloody Mary a century earlier. They worried James would try to impose his faith on the nation and rule as an absolute monarch, just like his counterpart, Louis XIV, was doing in France. Initially, Parliament and the English elite were willing to wait it out. James was getting older, and his two daughters from his first marriage, Mary and Anne, were both staunch Protestants. Mary was even married to the Protestant hero of Europe, William of Orange, the leader of the Dutch Republic. The thinking was, okay, we can tolerate James for a few years, and then his Protestant daughter Mary will become queen, and everything will go back to normal. It was a classic case of let's just wait and see. But James II was not a man who liked to wait. He began appointing Catholics to high positions in the army, government, and universities, using his royal power to bypass laws that were designed to prevent exactly that. He issued a declaration of indulgence, granting religious freedom to everyone, which sounded nice on the surface, but was seen by many as a backdoor attempt to promote Catholicism and weaken the Church of England. The tension was building, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Then, in June of 1688, two things happened that shattered the fragile calm. First, James's wife, Mary of Modena, gave birth to a son, James Francis Edward Stuart. Suddenly, the plan to wait for Protestant Mary to inherit the throne was in tatters. England now had a Catholic heir, threatening a permanent Catholic dynasty. Rumors flew, with some even claiming the baby wasn't the Queen's at all, but had been smuggled into the palace in a warming pan. It sounds absurd now, but it shows the level of panic and distrust at the time. Just days later, James had 7 leading bishops arrested and put on trial for refusing to read his declaration of indulgence from their pulpits. This was a direct attack on the Church of England, and it backfired spectacularly. The people of London rallied behind the bishops, and their acquittal was met with widespread celebration. For many, this was the final straw. James had proven he would not respect the laws, traditions, or the established church of his own kingdom. Feeling they had no other choice, a group of 7 prominent English nobles, both from the Whig and Tory parties, did something incredibly risky. They wrote a secret letter. This wasn't just any letter. It was an invitation to a foreign leader to invade their country. The recipient? Mary's husband, William of Orange. They invited William to come to England with an army to restore English liberties and protect the Protestant faith. William was in a tricky position. He was busy fighting a massive war against the powerful king Louis XIV of France. But the invitation was tempting. An alliance with England would be a huge boost in his fight against France. And, of course, his wife was the rightful heir to the throne before the birth of James's son. After much deliberation, and with the assurance of support from key English figures, William agreed. He assembled a massive fleet and army, far larger than the famous Spanish Armada a century before. In November 1688, William of Orange landed his forces on the coast of Devon. This was the moment of truth. Would the English people rise up to defend their king, James II? The answer was a resounding no. As William marched towards London, James's support crumbled like a sandcastle. Nobles, army officers, and even his own daughter, princess, and deserted him to join William's side. James II was completely isolated. He saw the writing on the wall. Rather than fight a losing battle and risk the same fate as his father, Charles I, he decided to flee. His first attempt was bungled when he was captured by some fishermen, but William, in a clever move, basically allowed him to escape a second time. Why? Because putting a king on trial or executing him was messy and created martyrs. It was far cleaner for James to simply abandon the throne. James fled to France, where he lived out the rest of his life as a guest of King Louis XIV. With James gone, Parliament declared that he had abdicated the throne, leaving it vacant. In early 1689, they offered the crown not just to Mary, the next in line, but jointly to both William and Mary. This was revolutionary in itself. They weren't just inheriting the throne by divine right. They were being offered it by Parliament, with conditions attached. And these conditions were monumental. Before they could be crowned, William and Mary had to agree to the Declaration of Rights, which was later passed into law as the English Bill of Rights of 1689. This document was a game-changer. It established that a monarch could not suspend laws, levy taxes, or maintain a standing army without Parliament's consent. It guaranteed the right to trial by jury, prohibited cruel and unusual punishments, and affirmed the right to free speech within Parliament. In essence, the Bill of Rights created a constitutional monarchy. The power of the king or queen was now limited by law, and the ultimate authority rested with Parliament, the representatives of the people. This was the glorious part of the revolution. It permanently shifted the balance of power, not through a bloody war, but through political negotiation and a shift in constitutional principles. The idea that government is based on a contract between the ruler and the ruled, and that the people have rights that the government cannot take away, was now firmly embedded in English law. The effects of the Glorious Revolution were profound and long-lasting. It secured Protestant rule in England and led to a period of relative political stability and commercial growth. But its influence stretched far beyond England's shores. Decades later, when American colonists felt their rights were being violated by the British Crown, they looked directly to the principles of 1688. The ideas in the Bill of Rights: no taxation without representation, freedom from arbitrary rule, and the right to petition the government, became the rallying cries of the American Revolution and were later enshrined in the U.S. Constitution and its own Bill of Rights. So, the next time you think about revolutions, remember the one that happened without a major war. The Glorious Revolution was a testament to the power of ideas, the importance of the rule of law, and the belief that a monarch's power should come not just from God, but from the consent of the governed. It was a quiet revolution, but its echoes are still heard in democracies around the world today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to 17th century England. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was it truly glorious? See you next time.